This morning, we're covering projects that are happening right here in town. We're at 9 Green Street, a site which is being redeveloped, and we're going to talk to James Keast, our facilities director, to find out what's happening. This is a site that's being redeveloped by the town, as you can see. James, tell us what's going on with this project.
So this has been a long time coming. This building was taken over by the town through tax liens. The previous owner basically walked away from the property. Unfortunately, it's a contaminated site, so the DEP is involved in terms of what can be done with this particular building. And it was decided that the best option, due to the contaminants, is to tear the building down, which you can see has happened behind us. You know, it's interesting history with this building. At one time was a clock manufacturing building, and the material used to make the hands glow on the clocks was used, and unfortunately the excess material was just disposed down into the septic system, which created some contaminants in the soil. And then in later lives, it actually was a bowling alley. And then in its later part of its life was, general office space. And then unfortunately it sat vacant for the past probably 6 years or so, and got infested with rodents and mold, and there was a lot of asbestos within the building. So over the past couple weeks, we had all the contaminants removed, which allowed us to take it down, which has been happening over the past couple days. And you can see there are 3 distinct piles. The wooden structure is in the farthest pile, and that'll be taken off site and reused or recycled. The scrap metal is in this pile over here, and that'll will go off site and be recycled. And you can't really see over behind the little loader over there are all these concrete blocks, all the concrete blocks from the building and the foundation, which is actually going to be used to refill that foundation. And one of the restraints with this site is that we got to prevent the surface water or rainwater, coming in and reaching into the ground, which can then, push the contaminant plume further out. We need to control that surface water, which is going to happen with a little rain garden over where that loader is, and then the water is going to be directed to this brook.
So what will the use of this property be then?
Ultimately, it's going to become a parking lot. The town appropriated the funding in this past town meeting in October, and that is going to be probably start and go out to bid for this spring, and hopefully construction sometime this summer. The plans are available on the town website if you'd like to look at the plans. And basically, it's going to be about an 18 to 20 space parking lot. There's going to be some electric vehicle charging stations, some picnic tables. So if you want to grab a sandwich over here from the Superette and sit down, you can and eat. And like I said, there'll be, I call it a rain garden, but it's going to be a grassy area with tall grasses and things to accept this surface water and control it and run it into this brook.
So what was your role in this project?
My role is a contract administrator, I was involved in procuring the engineering firm to do the design work for the demolition, as well as the ultimate final design of the parking lot, and to oversee the dismantling and ultimately the construction of the parking lot. This is going to be much needed parking for the park across the street, as well as the library and certainly all of the businesses here downtown.
And I like the idea of a little bit of green space and places where people can gather.
Absolutely. So gathering spaces, we're even thinking of maybe, those chess tables, even though they're big, stone type things. There'll be places where you can park your bicycle, and those will be there as well. Yeah. Another cool thing is that the town received a grant, $100,000 grant, thanks to Carolyn Dykema and Karen Spilka. We will be redoing the bathrooms over at Goodwill Park, as well as some renovation of the field areas. And the goal is to align the benches and the fixturing and the lighting that goes on over there with the same thing here with this parking lot. So really, this parking lot's going to be an extension of that park. And it's basically a park with a street running down the middle of it. Yep. But it will look all homogeneous between the two areas.
Now we've moved down to 1750 Washington Street, which is another building that the town has purchased and has repurposed. What's happening on this project, James?
So this building houses the Parks and Recreation Department, as well as Youth and Family Services and Veteran Services, and facilities. So my office is in this building as well. The front entrance to this building was made out of wooden planks, basically. It was put up as a temporary measure many years ago for ADA access into the front of the building. That's deteriorated over the years and needed to get replaced. So what we wanted to do is replace it with something that we're not going to have to worry about in 10 years. It's going to last for 30 or 40 years. So we ripped out all of the wooden structure, and we're now, as you can see behind me, replacing it with concrete. And that required building up some foundation walls, backfilling it, and then now today we're actually pouring the concrete to make a beautiful front entrance.
That's going to be great for the tenants in this building. What else will it do?
So it will allow for ADA access, which is the most important aspect. Certainly a number of our veterans that are coming in have difficulty in terms of mobility. Wheelchair access will be greatly enhanced, as well as anyone with a cane or a walker. It's also going to be a much better looking area now. I mean, it was definitely a safety hazard before. Thanks to the residents of town for appropriating the funding this past town meeting to allow us to do this work.
How long have you been in this job?
I'm coming up to 2 years, which is hard to believe. So I started right in March of 2020, and the day I started, the town shut down because of COVID. It actually worked out well in terms of getting to understand the town facilities and the buildings and whatnot. But since that time, a number of large projects have happened. We'll start maybe on a building-by-building basis.
Okay.
So over at our senior center, we did a lot of improvements in there. We redid parts of the kitchen. We did a lot of the floors. We also did a lot of painting as well as some ceiling work there. Over at the library, we restored the front facade, which is a masonry facade. Thanks to the CPC committee, we were able to get some funding to redo the masonry. Some of the bricks were actually coming off and falling. So we had those restored, reset, and then a number of areas repointed so that we don't have this issue. The problem was actually water was getting in there and creating a hazardous situation. We also did a lot of improvements on the inside. We had all new carpeting installed, as well as got the entire interior repainted. One of the big energy savings things that we did over at the library was change the energy management system. So, the heating and cooling controlling, which has been an issue for years. We enhanced that and got that taken care of as well. Over at Town Hall, which we're going to head to next, actually, had a number of projects. We redid the entire Grand Hall, the floor. Again, thanks to the CPC in terms of funding for that to get the floor. Unfortunately, it was over 100 years old. It had been sanded so many times that the nail heads were coming through, so unfortunately it had to be replaced. So the entire floor was ripped up, the subfloor leveled as best as you can. It's a 200-year-old building. You can't level it too much. But got that done. We also had a number of the windows in the building were inoperable. And as a result of COVID, we wanted to be able to open those windows up to allow fresh air into the building. So we had the lower windows mechanically restored. So these are old, historic, double-hung windows with the big sash weights and cords. So we had all those redone, so they're now operable. We'll show you, we're actually in the final stages of putting in storm windows, and these are architectural storm windows. They're not like the triple tracks that you may have on your home. These had to actually go to the state for approval in terms of the Architectural Access Board. So it was a lengthy process to get these windows approved, get them manufactured, and get them installed. And again, thanks to the CPC, those are now installed. It's going to greatly improve energy efficiency, sound levels within the building from the nearby street, as well as protect these historic windows. That's the biggest thing, is that it's going to protect the windows so they'll last another couple hundred years. We're also installing a septic system, but again, we'll talk about that when we get there. But that's just a number of the big projects that we have going on in town. Of course, 9 Green Street.
How about the Linden Street and the Woodland Street property?
So one of the very first projects that I was contract administrator on was the cleanup of 260 Woodland, which is a property that had some structures on it. Unfortunately, it had asbestos. So again, it was a cleanup. We had DEP monitoring that site as well. The buildings were demolished, and the site has been cleared and cleaned. And now the town's deciding what's going to happen with that lot. There are a number of things. There was a survey that went out about uses for that particular property. Dog park is one, skate park is another, a picnic area. I mean, there are a whole bunch of things. Town's still deciding what is going to be the best use of that property. And in terms of Linden Street, we have a lot of people don't know it, but we actually have a wastewater treatment plant in town. It's there exclusively for the schools. That's another facility that's under my purview. Right now, there's some discussion about what's the best use of that facility. It's about 1/3 of its total capacity is being used. So there's some discussion of maybe linking in part of downtown. It's just at the preliminary discussions at this point, but it's an area in town that a lot of people don't know about, but is a great resource for the town if we want to expand in terms of sewage system within the town.
Well, it seems like you've been really busy since you've taken on this position. So we've heard about some of the past things you've did, and it looks like there's a lot of good stuff in the future.
Yes, there are a lot of exciting things, in the future going on, it all depends on what the town wants to do and in terms of the funding and whatnot. But one of the big components of my role is planning ahead for capital improvements, putting a look forward in terms of, we're going to need a new roof on this building in 5 years. Let's start planning now. Let's start maybe appropriating some funding for that. So a lot of it is preventative maintenance, capital planning, capital forecasting, and that's a big component of my role.
Well, you can't help but notice what's happening here at the town green. So, James, tell us about this project.
So this project is putting in a septic system for the town hall, which is the building right behind me. Believe it or not, the building is on a cesspool system, which is basically a big hole in the ground where everything goes and collects and occasionally has to get pumped out. Now, unfortunately, it's got to be pumped out every month, which is a significant expense and is not a proper way to treat the waste that comes out of the building. But putting in this system was no easy task because we had to figure out where to go. As you can see behind me, this massive field, you need a lot of space for that. This is actually not town property. This is the church property, which required an easement. So we worked with the church, and they were very thankful for the church to work with us to allow us to have the easement here on this property. We looked at a number of systems, one of which maybe was to put it out here in the front. But as you can see, there's so much stuff in the front. There's the memorial, there's the signs, and those things would have to come down. You have to put in the system, put them all back up. Another system was to design a pump that would actually pump up behind the apartments there, because that's actually part of the town hall land up there. That just didn't make sense to pump everything up there. So the real only solution was to put the leaching field here. And that took about a year or so in the terms of design process to find this right spot. We did some scanning of the area ahead of time to make sure there was no rock or ledge or anything historic in there. We found that it was clear, and in fact, when they dug it up, it was almost like a beach. There's just a lot of sand. It makes you wonder how the sand got there, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But this is in, the field is in, and as you can see, there are a number of inspection ports here. Those will actually be cut below grade, so you will never see those unless you want to get in there and you dig them up and you take a look. The distribution box is down at this end, so the effluent will come out of the building, actually out of the holding tanks, and then go into the distribution box and then trickle in through the field and then dissipate into the ground. When this is done, you won't even know that it's here.
So there'll be some nice landscaping?
Yeah, it will basically be the lawn here. So no mound or anything like that. The only thing you'll notice is maybe a little concrete posts next to the existing fence line, which is going to serve as the vent for the system. Completed now is the leaching field. We've trenched across Jasper Hill Road, so the pipe is in there. Next step is to dig up the sidewalk over on the side here where they'll put in the tanks. And so now we're going through the process of getting those tanks delivered. We'll dig the hole, so likely next week. That work will begin, and then we'll connect up the building, and the system is operational.
So this is almost done. That's awesome.
Yes.
Now, what's going to be the advantage to the town hall having this new system?
Well, the biggest advantage is to be able to utilize the upper town hall, which we couldn't use just because the number of people that would be up there. The current system couldn't handle the waste basically from the bathrooms. So that's the biggest use, is the town hall is going to be open up there. We put a significant investment into that space in terms of new floors. We talked about previously, had that whole area repainted as well. So that will be a huge benefit to be able to have that space available to the town residents to use.
Sounds like another excellent project. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun, and I really love this stuff. So it's pretty cool.
For Heartbeat of Holliston, this is Chryso Lawless.